Today I want to share with you a project to make a bangle, which is a wooden bracelet. We're going to use a piece of maple. This is a piece of scrap. This is a good project for scraps. This is a floor piece sample, in fact, about 1 inch thick. Cut into a square and then glued to a piece of backing wood, soft wood of some sort, to put onto a faceplate and mount on your lathe. The key thing here is to make the, I used a 2x6 here cut down, so that there's enough wood so you can cut into it, so you can turn the bangle shape. Other things we're going to need for this project is a hole saw. This is a very inexpensive one. I used to have a good one, but I can't find it. A drill chuck this mounts on my shopsmith, so it's easy, and then a drum sander. It helps to knock the corners off. You don't have to do that if you don't like. I'm going to do that next. Okay, now we're going to cut those corners off. I've attached the faceplate to the scrap wood and mounted the whole thing on the lathe. So now we're ready to rough it out. Because this piece has this piece of floorboard, I've set the lathe so I can cut the face a little bit. So I've cut the bracelet more or less to the shape that I want to do. So a couple of things you need to do. One is to measure the inside here to make sure that it's less than the diameter of the bracelet that it's going to be. In this case, I'm going to cut it to be 2.5 inches. So I've machined or I've lathed far enough into this so that when I cut it off, it'll be finished the whole way through. I used a combination of chisels, your typical gouge, maybe a smaller one so you can work it into here. Notice that I cut a lot of the softwood away so that I could get into the inside of the bracelet, and also a number of scrapers that would be able to fit in there, and that fit in like this, and then even a parting tool a little bit to get in a little bit more. The next step is sand, and we'll sand it while it's still on the lathe and before we cut the hole. So now we're going to sand, and I'm going to start. Oh, notice that I took the tool rest off so I could get into the sanding a little more easily without getting the tool rest in the way. I'm going to start with 100 grit and then move directly to 220. Maple is really hard. Any coarser than that will probably gouge it. I also don't see any particular reason to go finer than 220. Because after all, this is a bracelet and it's going to be worn and it's going to get banged around a little bit, and so 220 I think is a fine enough grit. So we'll start with the 100. So the sanding on the inner part of this of the bracelet is somewhat more difficult, and you need to be careful that you don't catch it and hurt your fingers. The next step is to cut the hole. The next step is cutting the hole, the armhole, into the bracelet, and this is a critical step. Now there's two things. First, if you're a woman, you know what size you wear, so that's not a big deal. But if you're not, and you're making this for your friend or your wife, you need to find out what size fits their hand, and the hand has to be able to fit into the hole when they scrunch it up, and every woman is different, and so you're either going to have to measure a bracelet that they already have or ask them. In this case, my wife takes a armhole that is 2.5 inches, and so I've set this hole saw to that diameter, and we're about ready to cut. One of the key points is that the center of the hole saw be lined up with the center of the lathe. On the Shopsmith, this is pretty easy because the machine is essentially set up now as a drill press on its side. So let's start to cut. You may have noticed a little smoke. This maple is so hard it tends to burn, but don't worry about that because we're going to sand that out. You can see now that it actually is a bracelet. You might wonder what to do with the part that's left over. You could just throw it away, but being as cheap as I am, I can't hardly get myself to do that. So I usually just part off the piece of hardwood, put it aside. I've been gluing them together and making Christmas ornaments out of them. But that's a project for later. Next step is to sand the inside to make it smooth. This is a critical step because this is the part that is going to this is the part of the bracelet that's going to touch the lady's arm. And so on the Shopsmith, I've set it up as a drum sander, and just not quite the same diameter as the hole in the bracelet. By moving it around, you can get the whole of the inside. I've got a ways to go still. Well, we're just about finished. I've smoothed out the inside on the drum sander, and it's still left a bit of a sharp edge right at the corner. And so you need to take like a 220 grit sandpaper and hand sand that down until it's nice and smooth and rounded over, so it doesn't irritate the lady's arm. Now the final thing is whether you finish this or not. I like the way this maple looks unfinished, and so that's the way I've been doing it with this wood. But that's not always the case, and so then one has to use a finish. The two choices that I've been able to find via the internet for hypoallergenic finishes, a hypoallergenic means that it won't bother your skin, are natural shellac or water-based polyurethane. I don't have a lot of experience with those, and so you'll have to experiment for that by yourself. But it's essentially done now. Honey, I made you something in the workshop.
Thank you, honey.
Works every time.